All right. Well, hello, Titans. Thank you for joining us today for our What is Food Insecurity webinar. I am your host, as always, Lupe, and I am the Programming Graduate Assistant at Tuffy's Basic Needs. And today we are joined by a special guest who will be giving us a presentation, and then we will have time at the end for a moderated Q&A. For the Q&A, you're able to submit questions at any time through the chat, and just make sure that they're being sent directly to Tuffy's Basic Needs. Also, before we get started, I do want to let you know that the webinar is being recorded and it will be posted onto our website and our YouTube channel for later view. Also, we kindly ask that you keep yourself muted throughout the presentation. So without further ado, I will now hand it over to our guests to introduce themselves and to begin our presentation today.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Caitlin, and let me just go ahead and share my presentation. Okay. Cool. So today we're going to be talking about what is food insecurity, and here's just a little breakdown of our agenda today. I'm going to do a quick introduction for myself and for Second Harvest Food Bank. We're going to talk about what food insecurity is, the causes of food insecurity, how to manage it, and we're also going to talk about CalFresh and a little bit about Tuffy's and CalFresh application assistance. So first, again, just to introduce myself again, my name is Caitlin Shields. I am a CalFresh capacity coordinator at Second Harvest Food Bank, and I also oversee our college pantry program. So just a little bit about Second Harvest. Our mission is to end hunger in Orange County. So there's more than 290,000 people that struggle with hunger in Orange County each month. And there's 1 in 6 children that are at risk of hunger each month. And these are also pre-coronavirus numbers. So we do know that these numbers have increased a certain amount because of high unemployment, unfortunately. But also we help with that. So Second Harvest provides over 26 million meals per year through various partners and programs. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. And our CalFresh program specifically contributes to around 2 million of those meals. And since we're talking about food insecurity in the college space, just a little bit on college hunger. Of the 3.3 million students who were potentially eligible for SNAP or for food stamps in 2016, less than half said that they participated. In 2016, 2 in every 5 UC students and 1 in every 4 CSU students were food insecure, and up to 50% of community college students report being food insecure. So what does Second Harvest do about that? So like I said, we, with 290,000 people that are hungry each month, through our various programs, we partner with over 300 community partners in every city in the county, and we, through those means, we feed more than 250,000 people each month, and so that definitely leaves a gap of 40,000 people. And so each year we try to close that gap. And so just to talk a little bit about our programs, so we have a college pantry program, we have a mobile pantry program, kids cafe, permanent school pantry, and various senior programs that target the most vulnerable members of our community, which are children and seniors. So I've mentioned food insecurity a lot, so let's just talk about what that is. So we define food insecurity as just at some point or multiple points during the month, you will not have enough food for your next meal, and you will not have the means or the resources to get that food. So you essentially will go hungry for 1 or more meals. That might be throughout the day or through the week, but we tend to look at each month as a snapshot. And so just something to keep in mind is that food insecurity varies person to person. That can look very different from a senior to a college student. And since we're in a college space, we're going to talk specifically about what food insecurity could look like for a college student. So these are just some general examples. Some of them are the most common examples that we've heard of. So that might mean saving up to purchase textbooks instead of food to sustain you through the semester, not being able to afford a variety of healthy food for your meals throughout the week, eating smaller, less nutritious meals in order to save money for your expenses. So tuition, rent, car payments, and then skipping meals because you can't afford 3 meals a day, or you just always have kind of this underlying worry or anxiety about where your next meal is going to come from. So what are the causes of food insecurity? I apologize if you hear planes going by. I live by an airport. So Second Harvest Food Bank is a part of Feeding America, and so they collect data from all over the country. And a lot of this data that I'm about to share with you has to do with just the overall colleges in the US. So according to Feeding America, rising tuition costs are and college meal plans being expensive are really big factors in what can cause food insecurity for college students. So a lot of colleges require students to have meal plans, and they can be very expensive, especially if the students are living on campus. Also, just from like historical inflation, tuition costs have gone up significantly. And then just tying back also to meal plans, the food isn't always available. The dining halls close, and some students really struggle to find affordable food outside of that, especially if they have a very limited meal plan that doesn't cover all their meals for the week. And the next 2 points and the last 2 points I'm going to go over that are some of the biggest causes of food insecurity are it's the fact that the traditional college student is changing. So something that you might have heard before is that there's more students going back to school if they're single parents or first-time parents, or maybe they're first generation, or they were veterans and now they're going back to school. So the traditional student is more of that student who goes to college right after high school. But we're seeing more and more that that's not the case. And so because there's so many students in very unique situations and going to college, that ties in a lot with rising tuition costs and maybe having to work full time to support your family. Another thing is colleges don't know students are going hungry. At least in California, the state of California has specific funding for all of the colleges in California to address issues that have to do with basic needs, so housing or food insecurity. And so luckily our state of California has addressed this issue, but colleges are still kind of learning what that looks like for students and are still learning how to help students in that way. So how do we manage food insecurity? So I'm going to share a few resources with you. One of them is 211. We partner with 211 because they're a great partner to have. So when we have our programs and our community partners that are having food distributions or offer CalFresh application assistance, we share that information with 211, and they're able to refer anyone that calls their helpline to those resources. So you can either call 211 or text them at 898-211. And it's 24/7, and they also have a multilingual helpline. So if you or any of your family members or friends are in need of this hotline number and they speak a different language, that's available to them. The next thing is to visit your local food pantry. So ocfoodhelp.org, there's a free food map where you can essentially type in your city or your zip code and in Orange County, and it'll show the food distributions that are in your area. It'll give the phone number, the address, if there's anything that you need to bring with you, as well as their distribution date and times. They'll also, 211, also I should mention, they have the most updated information and they also update this map. So if there's varying hours because of the coronavirus or something, they update that information. Oh, sorry, I don't know what's ringing. One second, I'm sorry. So this is ocfoodhelp.org. You can also learn information about CalFresh, and you can also see at the top, there's the free food map. Another thing is you can apply for CalFresh, which is a food assistance program. Since that's kind of my area of expertise, I'll be talking a little bit more about CalFresh in a moment. But just to kind of do a quick summary, SNAP is nationally known as Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, formerly known as food stamps. And if you, in California, it's called CalFresh. And if you're interested, you can make an appointment through 211 for a location that's nearest to you. There's a very limited amount of locations who are doing in-person application assistance, but there is phone applications or phone assistance available for doing an application over the phone. And lastly is to reach out to available resources. There's definitely resources out there, especially on campus and even virtually at Tuffy's Basic Needs Center. They have resources available for you whenever it comes to if you're struggling with basic needs or if you're experiencing food insecurity, you can definitely reach out to them. So next I'm going to talk about what CalFresh is. So we're going to go over a lot of information, a quick overview, but like Lupe mentioned, it's going to be on YouTube. So if you want to refresh your memory about what CalFresh is, you can definitely do that. So like I mentioned, CalFresh is formerly known as food stamps. Nationally, it's known as SNAP. And in each state gets to call SNAP what they want. So California calls it CalFresh. And before, it used to actually look like food stamps, but in 2001, they transferred over to an EBT card. EBT stands for electronic balance transfer. And so you pretty much just use it similar to a debit card for grocery stores. And it's operated by the USDA. So who administers CalFresh? So the Orange County Social Services Agency, they're the ones that determine if you're approved or denied for the benefits, if you qualify based off of your information and your income. And Second Harvest is considered a community-based organization. And so we work with social services to help potentially eligible individuals apply for CalFresh. I apologize, outside there's a gardener. And then Tuffy's Basic Needs Center is what, when we were in person before coronavirus, it was one of our CalFresh outreach hubs. And it still technically is, except it's not in person. But a grad assistant is able to meet with you about if you have any questions about CalFresh. I'll share more details at the end with you. So where is CalFresh accepted? So you might have seen these signs before that say we accept EBT or we accept CalFresh. And so those places are where you can use your EBT card. And there are a lot of stores that don't necessarily have this sign in the window, but pretty much every grocery store at this point accepts CalFresh. Even some Orange County farmers markets do. You can just Google it and there is a brief list of farmers markets that accept EBT as payment at the grocery store. So what can you buy and what can you not buy? So first I'll talk about what you can't buy. You can't buy drugs, alcohol, cleaning products. You can't buy anything with the supplement facts label. That pretty much is like vitamins, anything like that. And you can't buy hot and ready food is what they call it. So that means something that's hot and ready to eat upon purchase. So that might mean a rotisserie chicken or a sandwich from the deli at the grocery store. But what you can buy is you can buy all the ingredients to make those things. So anything with the nutrition facts label, snacks, chips if you wanted. You buy fruits, vegetables, uncooked meat. You could buy like deli meat as well, just something that's not hot and ready. You could also buy baby formula with it. And very recently, as of this year, online purchasing has become available with your EBT card. So right now, the current vendors are Amazon and Walmart, and there may be delivery fees if you were to purchase online, and you can't pay with your EBT card for that. But this is super exciting because this is something that we had been waiting to be available in California. It was being piloted in other states. And so this definitely makes groceries more accessible to those who are unable to leave their home, especially during the pandemic, and maybe anyone who may have a disability. And just also to mention, hot meal delivery from restaurants is not included. And there are other retailers interested in joining. It's definitely a process to make that happen, but we're still super excited about this addition. So the restaurant meals program, as of February 2018, homeless, elderly, and disabled CalFresh recipients in Orange County are able to use their CalFresh benefits to purchase hot meals. So when you apply for CalFresh, if you are experiencing homelessness, if you are elderly or have a disability, then on your application, it almost like pings you. And so when you use your EBT card at a specific restaurant that's a part of the restaurant meals program, it'll allow you to make that purchase. So there's a limited list of participating restaurants. Restaurants have to apply to be a part of this program, but luckily it is growing. So before, I think there was Subway, Pizza Hut, Domino's, maybe like one Lee's sandwiches, but it's slowly growing. So, and social services is hopefully working with, hoping to eventually offer this on college campuses. So just a few CalFresh facts. CalFresh will not affect your immigration status. You're not taking someone else's place when you apply. You can apply and have a savings account, own a home and a car. CalFresh does not need to be included on your tax forms. Your children won't have to pay back their CalFresh benefits when they turn 18. And households with undocumented immigrants can apply as long as one person is a US citizen or a lawful permanent resident, including children. So some of these facts might sound a little interesting or funky, kind of like your children won't have to pay back CalFresh benefits, but a lot of these are based off of myths that people hear in the media. And so it's really important that people have the truth and have the facts about CalFresh. So very quickly, we're going to go over the general rules. So when you apply, social services looks at three main things when you apply: your household, your income, and your expenses. And just a quick summary, what the process kind of looks like if you were to get assistance from Tuffy's Basic Needs for applying for CalFresh. So someone helps you apply one-on-one, you submit your documents, you do an interview with social services, either over the phone or in person, but because of the coronavirus, most interviews are over the phone. If any additional documents are needed by your caseworker, then you'll submit those. And if you're approved, you get your EBT card in the mail with your PIN code, and you're all set to go. So what is a household? So the CalFresh definition of a household is an individual or a group of people that you purchase and prepare food with. So even if you live with roommates, if you don't share food with them, you don't have to apply with your roommates. But if you live at home and you do buy and share food with your family, you have to apply with your whole family. Who's eligible? So US citizens, lawful permanent residents, refugees and asylees, some visa card holders are eligible for CalFresh. And then individuals who are not eligible are undocumented individuals, immigrants with temporary visas, some students, and we'll talk about why, and fleeing felons. So here's the next thing that social services looks at, your income. So they look at your gross monthly income, which is your monthly income before taxes. And as of October 1st, these were updated because every year social services of California reevaluates what the cost of living is. And so slowly it may increase or adjust based off of what the overall cost of living is in the state. So for right now, for a household size of 1, and to be eligible to apply for CalFresh, you have to be making less than $2,128 a month before taxes. And your monthly allotment range would be a minimum of $16 and a maximum of $204. So if you're making on a monthly basis, if you're making a little bit closer to $2,000, you might be on the lower end of the monthly allotment range. If you're making significantly less than $2,000 a month, you might be higher on the monthly allotment range. So what counts as income? Paychecks, Social Security, supplemental security income, disability income. I highlighted unemployment because with everything with the coronavirus, a lot of people are experiencing unemployment. So I highlighted that's important to include as income. Child support, certain veteran benefits, and what does not count as income is financial aid, military income, loans, and tax returns. So that's important to note. So your financial aid or your student loans do not count as income. And what counts as an expense? So this is the third thing that social services looks at. They look at your rent, utilities, your phone bill, childcare, if you pay child support, if you're 60 or older or have a disability, then medical expenses, and what does not count as an expense. Paying for cable, Wi-Fi, unfortunately, car payments, student loans, and credit card payments. So the reason that some count as an expense and some don't is that they really look at, does your expense have to do with what they consider as a need, something that's necessary? And so next we're going to be talking about CalFresh eligibility for college students specifically. So students are defined as being 18 to 49, and they have to be enrolled at least half-time or more in an institution of higher education. And as you can see, the unit breakdown really depends on what college you're at. And something that's really important is the student eligibility. So students must meet at least one of the following. So working at least 20 hours a week or 80 hours a month, enrolled in or are receiving work study. So even if you're in work study, but you're not currently working yet, that still counts. The primary caretaker of a child 12 or younger, or enrolled in one of the following programs. So EOP, DSS, Guardian Scholars, or receiving Cal Grant A or B. And all of these really have to do with career development, so and employability. That's why these are included in student eligibility. So if you are applying with a Cal Grant A or B student eligibility, you have to provide this letter. So CSAC, which is the California Student Aid Commission, they will email you this letter if you are eligible as a student to receive CalFresh and you're also receiving Cal Grant A or B. So this is mandatory because certain Cal Grants make you eligible for CalFresh and certain ones don't. And so this is the only way to prove that you're receiving the correct Cal Grant to be able to receive CalFresh or be eligible to apply. So these are the eligibility requirements. If you haven't received this letter and you're wondering if you are eligible to apply for CalFresh, ask yourselves these questions for these TANF eligibility requirements. And if you do fall under those, then you may likely be eligible to receive this letter and then apply for CalFresh. So you should reach out to the California Student Aid Commission to see if you are eligible to get this letter and apply. But just important to mention that you only need one of these. So if you work 20 hours a week and you're also an EOP, you don't necessarily need to prove both. You can apply with just one of the eligibilities, but it's important that you have at least one. I also want to touch on lawful permanent residence for a moment. So that's if you're a green card holder. Social services will ask for your sponsor's information between the first and third year. The fourth and fifth year, they don't ask for it. And then after the sixth year, they do ask for sponsor information because if you have not become a citizen yet. And so social services will ask lawful permanent residents ask for this information unless the lawful permanent resident opts out of the application, or you could see the rest of the information there. So they need the sponsor information because sponsors financially support lawful permanent residents to come to the country. And so 10% of the sponsor's income is counted towards the application. If you don't feel comfortable sharing that information, or if you don't have a relationship with your sponsor anymore, you may opt out of applying for CalFresh. Also, mixed status households. So at least one person in the household must be a citizen or a lawful permanent resident because prorated income is counted. So social services, they'll only take into account the income proportional to the number of eligible members in the household. So for example, if two parents are undocumented, but the child is a citizen, social services will only count 33% of the income of the parents and then compare that to the income guideline of one person in the household. I also want to talk quickly about expedited benefits. It's basically just a quicker processing time. So if you are someone that has an exceptionally low income and high expenses, or just overall lower income and like low income, low finances in your bank accounts, then you may be eligible for expedited benefits, which pretty much means that you can apply online. You do an interview with social services, not in person, unfortunately, right now, but you would do an interview within 3 days. And then if everything goes to plan, then you're approved, you get your EBT card in the mail within 10 days. So overall, when you're not receiving expedited benefits, it could take about 3 to 4 weeks to completely process your application. And in case there's any complications with your documents, or if social services needs some extra time to process your application, but expedited benefits, everything could be figured out within 3 days. Just a few important things to note. Married couples that live together must apply together. Students that are 21 or younger who live with their parents must apply with their entire household. This is in bold because a lot of students might be experiencing this situation. So it's just a rule that if you're a student or if you're a person that's 21 or younger and you live with your parents, you must apply with your entire household, even if you don't share food with your parents, unfortunately. And then another quick thing to note is that if you're receiving unemployment or if you're receiving WIC benefits, then you are still eligible to apply for CalFresh. So something that you might want to do for yourself right now, or something that Toughies can do for you, is to pre-screen you to see if you are eligible to apply for CalFresh. So they may ask you where you live, if you're a citizen, if you live with your parents, what your gross monthly income is, and then if any of these descriptions apply to you. So you can pre-screen yourself to see if you would be eligible to apply. But like I said, you can also reach out to Toughies and they could help you with that process as well. If you do live in a different county, we can still connect you with community-based organizations who do similar CalFresh work outside of Orange County. Or if you just have general questions and need extra resources for the county that you live in, we can definitely connect you there. So after you filled out your application You'll fill out those questions about your household, your income and expenses. You need the documents to prove that. So you will submit photos or copies of your ID for all the adults, social security numbers, your proof of income from the last 30 days, proof of expenses. And for college students, you have to provide the following. So your financial aid statement that shows a breakdown of what financial aid you're receiving, a campus official acknowledgement letter if you're applying with the student eligibility of being an EOP or in Guardian Scholars, or if you're applying as a student who's receiving Cal Grant, then you need to provide the CSAC letter. And lastly, you'll provide your class schedule. So again, just to kind of go over what that whole topic, the whole process looks like. You would apply, do an interview with social services, and submit documents if social services asks for additional proof from you. And then if you're approved, then you get your EBT card in the mail. And just a few reminders, if you apply as a student, especially, make sure you answer your phone, keep an eye on the mail, respond to any follow-up messages, and also feel free to advocate for yourself. If you're a caseworker, most caseworkers should be familiar with student eligibility, but some might not be. And so if you know that being an EOP student makes you eligible to apply for CalFresh and your caseworker says they have not heard that before, make sure you advocate for yourself and let them know, yes, I can apply because I'm an EOP student. There's a few things to talk about with CalFresh that also have to do with reporting. So once you've applied and you've been approved, you will have to do some follow-up within a few months. So the first 6 months after you apply, you will have to do your semi-annual report. It's due by the 5th of the month. So you only have to do this every 6-month mark. So they'll send it to you in the mail. You can complete it and mail it back. You'll also have to submit with your most recent form of income. It's not a full application again. It's just a quick summary to let them know, yes, I still need the benefits, nothing has changed. And if you don't complete it, then your benefits may be delayed or stopped. And then your recertification is for the annual mark. So it's not a whole application again, but it's similar with the semi-annual report where you'll just quickly fill out your information, say whether anything has changed. You'll submit it with your most recent form of income, but you will have to do another interview with social services. And reporting changes. So sometimes things in life change. And so for your income, you will want to report a decrease in your income right away, especially if you're not already receiving the maximum monthly allotment. That way you can see if you are eligible to receive more benefits monthly. And you'll also want to report your income if there's an increase in your income. So if and when you're approved in the mail, you'll get something that talks about your income reporting threshold. So that means that if you make over a certain amount, you'll want to report that because it'll affect your benefit amount. If you don't report those changes, then it's definitely possible that social services could charge you an overissuance in the future, which basically means that you shouldn't have been getting those benefits when you were having such a high income and you didn't report it. So they will charge you those benefits. And in that case, then they would either take that amount out of your monthly allotment amount, or you would come to some kind of agreement with them about how you would pay that off. So make sure you report changes, especially if it's an increase in income. For expenses, you can report any increase or decrease because that could also affect your benefit amount to increase or decrease. You'll also want to report if your address or phone number changes because you receive documents from social services through the mail, and especially if you are going to be having phone calls with your caseworker for interviews, or if you have questions, you'll want to update your phone number. So like I said, so if you should report to the county the following changes. If your income exceeds the IRT, If you don't plan to return to the county, so if you move, they'll have to do an intercounty transfer of your case, or if anything changes about your student eligibility status. So with COVID-19, some things have changed. And so I just want to mention a few adjustments that have happened with CalFresh. So there's been an emergency allotment for CalFresh. So on a monthly basis, the USDA reviews the California Department of Social Services request to implement emergency allotments to CalFresh recipients' EBT cards. So for right now, it's being reviewed on a monthly basis, but because of the coronavirus, people who have received CalFresh for a certain month may receive a bump in their CalFresh benefits for the following month if they aren't already receiving the maximum allotment for their household size. So for example, if a household got CalFresh for the month of September, then they'll be getting that bump of CalFresh that will be loaded onto their EBT card in October. So for example, if there's a household of 3 who's not already receiving the maximum of $535 a month, they'll receive the amount to bump their total to $535 a month. And so now let's talk about Toughies. So over the past 2 years of offering CalFresh application assistance at Toughies, we've helped around 160 students apply for CalFresh. So before coronavirus, I personally was going to Toughies Basic Needs every week to help students apply for CalFresh. But since in-service or in-person services are not available right now, Toughies is still accessible to you for any questions that you have related to CalFresh. So staff can answer any questions about eligibility or the application process, walk through the application with you, dispel any myths if you have heard something about CalFresh that you're not sure if it's true or not, or if you're from another county and you'd like to know if you qualify for CalFresh. So thank you all so much for joining today. And here's my name and my email if you have any questions. And yeah.
Thank you, Caitlin, so much for that presentation.
Yeah.
So at this point, if you haven't submitted any questions, you are still able to do so. Make sure that they are going to Toughies Basic Needs. But we do have a couple questions that have come in through the chat. One of them reads, are there any volunteer opportunities to help decrease food insecurity in Orange County?
Yeah, so with Second Harvest right now, we have very limited volunteer opportunities, unfortunately, because of the coronavirus. But you are always welcome to go to our website, feedoc.org, to look up. You can sign up to be a volunteer. And so whenever volunteer opportunities are available, we'll definitely reach out to you. You're also welcome to reach out to any local organizations in your area to see, because we know that because of so many of our community partners are offering some kind of food distributions to help those who are experiencing food insecurity. So I definitely recommend it. It's a very rewarding experience.
Thank you. So another question reads, how can I apply to participate in the Second Harvest Food Bank programs like the Kids Cafe or the College Pantry?
Yeah, that's a good question. So with some of our programs, they are very specific. So for example, our senior programs or Kids Cafe. So Kids Cafe is a program that we offer at certain child-focused centers, so maybe like Boys and Girls Clubs in the area. If you have any children in your family and you want to be able to enroll them in that program, I definitely recommend calling 211 and seeing which one is closest to your area. As far as College Pantry goes, we do have, right now we have, I think, yeah, we have 11 College Pantry partnerships that are going on. Right now, unfortunately, we're not partnered with Cal State Fullerton for a College Pantry program. However, there are definitely pantries in Fullerton, especially, that are open and offering food assistance.
Thank you. So another question asks, what type of information am I asked during a CalFresh interview?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So social services, whichever caseworker is assigned to you, they'll pretty much ask you to confirm the information that was put in the application. So they might just review it with you, and it's a lot of yes or no questions. And they might ask some follow-up questions, just to clarify with you, if you have maybe a more non-traditional like housing situation. They might ask you a little bit more about that. So they'll just ask follow-up questions and just to clarify, to make sure that they have all the information that they need. Definitely not something that's scary. I know some people think that it can be a scary process, but it's really not. And just as long as you feel comfortable and relaxed, then it should go smoothly. It shouldn't also take longer than, it could be anywhere from 20 to 40 minutes, just depending on what additional information they need from you.
Okay, thanks. We also have another question that says, I don't live in Orange County, but I want to know if there are services like Second Harvest Food Bank in my area. How can I find this information?
Sure, definitely. So like I mentioned, you can reach out to Tuffy's if you want to know if there's any community-based organizations in your area that's offering something similar. Or I would just suggest a quick Google search for a food bank in your area. A lot of the food banks in Southern California and our neighboring counties offer very similar services. So CalFresh application assistance, and they also partner with different groups in the county for food distribution. So I would definitely recommend looking up your nearest food bank. And I believe that there's definitely one that we work with or are partnered with and communicate well with in San Diego, Riverside County, and Inland Empire. So they're definitely there, and they're ready to help.
Thanks. And our last question is, are international students eligible for CalFresh?
That's a good question. So unfortunately, no, international students are not eligible for CalFresh. We'd love to be able to, but unfortunately, no. Only citizens or lawful permanent residents are eligible for CalFresh. However, there isn't there's no like strict guidelines in accessing food pantries or anything in the area. You don't need to necessarily be a citizen for that benefit. So I would definitely recommend looking into alternative food resources.
Okay, well, thank you, Caitlin. That was all the questions that we had in the chat. And I want to thank everybody else for joining us today for our What is Food Insecurity webinar. I do want to remind you that this was recorded and it will be accessible on our website next week and also up on our YouTube channel. And also, don't forget that next Thursday, actually, we're going to have our Getting Fresh with CalFresh webinar, which will also include a live demonstration of going through a CalFresh application. So don't forget to join us. And before you leave, please take a couple seconds to fill out this quick feedback poll. And thank you, everybody. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you, Caitlin.